around the corner. Guys, Jewish people get on first, by the way, if they disagree. So what should the show be about today? What do you think? Truth is, the audience makes a show. I guess it depends on the objections that we get on the show. Should it be about Jesus? Is that what someone's writing there? All right. We're on YouTube, and I see my friend Yehuda. Cohen. Let me put out the link here. This is the only show that actively encourages Judaism. That doesn't mean we encourage the act of conversion. We want seriousness, people. If you're serious, you want to do it, then yes, go ahead and convert. But if not, consider becoming Jewish. Consider converting, learning towards such an extent that you would want to convert one day. Yes. A Torah revolution, at least in exile. Let's see. Hello, Yosef. Shalom Aleichem. Who else? Thursday night. Thursday night's a pretty hot night. First century, yes. You will soon be Jewish. First century. Kind of a breath of fresh air, especially during these trying times of Jews getting, I don't know, what's the right term, getting challenged, being to be, they're made uncomfortable. If you really wanted to support the Jewish people, become the Jewish people. That's probably the best advice. You want to support Israel? Become Israel. That's the best way to support Israel. They don't need your prayers and they don't need your money. They need you. You can convert to Judaism. Yes. Let's see. Chabad has an online Tanakh. Use that one. What Chumash he recommends? I don't recommend the Chabad one, by the way. I mean, for sure, it's better than no Chumash. But I wonder if the Chumash is the same Gutnick edition. I have issues with the Gutnick edition. I like literal versions of the Torah, if possible. And that's far from literal. Art score is also problematic. JPS. Go JPS. It seems like the firmer, the more religious the Jewish translation of the Bible is, the more problematic it is because it incorporates ideas outside of the Torah. It's because there's a rich rabbinic tradition on how to understand or interpret certain verses. And out of respect to these rabbis, the translators will translate the verse in that manner instead of sticking to the original, even though rabbis disagree with its literal interpretation. Right? That's it's actually a principle in Judaism. It's actually a principle of Judaism of Ein Mikra Yotzei Midei Pashuto, that a verse in the Torah doesn't depart from its literal meaning. But tell that to most Orthodox Jews today. Okay. Let's see what's this. All right. Look at this name. Freaky Ray. Hey, Freaky Ray. What's up, man?
There's a ghost behind you.
I'm sorry?
There's a ghost behind you.
Ha.
Oh, look behind you, bro. There's a ghost, I swear.
Oh, man.
It's spooky, man. It's behind you.
Yeah.
Turn around, man. It's going to get you. You got to look. You got to turn around. There's a ghost. I
can
swear.
See that my picture's in the camera.
Man. This is spooky.
There's a video in the camera. But can you see that I can see what's behind me?
It's going to kill you. Holy shit, there's a ghost. Turn around. I don't want you to die.
I mean, I appreciate scary movies also. I could see what's behind me. Can you see that there's a video of me on the screen so I can see what's behind me? Now, if there's something behind that, then I'm in trouble. My gosh. All right. I guess there's just comedians here that they're trying out their material before they have to go up on stage. I get it. Okay. Why are Jewish people God's favorite? Jewish people are not God's favorite. Not if you're determining someone Jewish just flesh and blood because of flesh and blood or genealogy or something. Anyone who keeps Torah is God's favorite, and that's the message in the Torah. This idea that the Jewish people are the chosen people, incorrect. Not if you're defining Jewish people as flesh and blood. The philosophy, anyone who embraces this philosophy becomes Israel. Then they become God's Am Segulad, his treasured nation, if they keep commandments. I get it that for people who don't know any better, if they just read a few verses from the Bible and go off into the world and try to, in some way, reiterate what they learned, they're going to give you an incomplete message, like the Jews are the chosen people. We're not the chosen people, stam, like just because we happen to exist. We belong to a people made up of belief and practice. If you don't believe in a certain manner and practice what God prescribes you to practice, then you're not part of the people of Israel. It clearly says in the Torah that you're lekaret, you are cut off. So yes, if you adopt this philosophy, then you're part of the chosen group. But that doesn't mean that flesh and blood is chosen. If that was the case, heck, Amalek would be chosen. Edom would be chosen. They both come from Yitzhak. Yitzhak, I believe they both come from. For Edom, for sure, comes from Yitzhak. Edom comes from. Amalek comes from his grandson Eliphaz, I believe. Yeah, people get stuck on first stage thinking. It's because they get their pointers of how Judaism functions by Jews who are not religious. Oh my God, Jews who are not religious, speaking on any topic, including Israel, they misappropriate, they misrepresent, and they lie. I'll tell you. If a Jewish person, right, someone who's absolutely Jewish is not religious, they shouldn't speak. One, on Jewish topics, or two, on topics that they use Judaism to justify, like the state of Israel and Zionism. Because all they do is they bring in their left-wing tactics, because they're typically on the left, right? I mean, we share no values with them as religious people. Most religious people are on the right. These people typically dislike Trump. They dislike conservative values, but because they happen to be born Jewish and they support the IDF, then they come on these lives and they sort of try to use religious people to justify political arguments. They try to politicize our religion, and I don't think anybody really puts them in check, but I do from a religious perspective. We have to make a distinction between secular Jews and religious Jews. Okay, and those secular Jews could be nice in every other area, but when trying to represent the state of Israel or trying to represent Torah, they give it over incorrectly. Have you ever debated Rav, that is a religious Zionist? Not on that topic. I've debated religious Zionists. I guess recently I had a discussion with Reuven, which also practices revisionism and misrepresents ideas just to get his point across. But I've never debated a religious argument put forward by a religious Zionist. Right? I don't think there's much to debate. I don't think a religious Zionist could really argue against an anti-Zionist, and I'm not an anti-Zionist, by the way. No, what was it at these protests? Hey, what's up, Sheikh? Oh, you're muted.
What's up, man?
Hi. Hi. So what's a good word? Were you born Jewish? No, I was not born Jewish. I converted. Is it true that Judaism does not recruit converts? It is true that most Jews do not recruit converts. That doesn't mean that Judaism is against recruiting converts. Nor am I saying that Jews are obligated to recruit converts. I think it's a good idea for Jews to have an open door policy and offer it as an alternative to any other harmful ism out there. What do you have to say about it, Sheikh?
I agree with everything that is pro-Jewish.
Yeah. You caught yourself. So you're going to say, I agree with everything you said, but then you throw yourself under the bus. The weight that's tossed my way by my haters. My gosh.
That's some good, what's that word? There's a word for when you had a good foresight, I guess. Good instincts, I guess.
Yeah, you caught yourself. But no, regardless, I would say, what were we talking about anyways? In terms of encouraging, I think the world would be better like if we had more religious Jews. I think the world would be better if we had more religious Christians. Right? I mean, I would want them to become Jewish. If they can become Jewish, fine, become an observant Christian. It benefits Jews and it benefits Christians if there's more Christians. It benefits everyone if there's more Jews, religious Jews, respectful, kind, religious Jews. So this idea that we don't encourage people, then what do you think you guys are doing on TikTok all day long arguing Israel-Palestine? You're encouraging your ideas on others. What is it? Because it's from the Torah, it suddenly becomes prohibited? My gosh, you guys are not very bright, right? These guys proselytize all day long. If you're arguing for the sake of Israel, you're proselytizing the idea that Israel has, should have a right to exist. You're trying to change someone's way of thinking. You're saying what's good for you to think and practice is good for them to think and practice, right? In terms of tolerance towards Jews. But when it comes to Judaism, we don't do it when there's nothing prohibited. So there's a lot of herd thinking, sheep mentality amongst the Jewish people, a lot of it. And no one wants to be made uncool. What's really uncool is when you have so many people, right, arguing for the sake of Israel, but they all have anonymous names. That has to be the simpiest thing I've ever seen. Okay, the average Muslim who argues, some of them do cover their name, but not as much as Jewish people do. They won't even tell you where they're from. Sheikh, let's go ahead and break this. Where are you from, Sheikh?
It's me, Mossad.
I know who you are. I know. I mean, like if you change your profile picture, then probably you'd knock me off a little bit.
Yeah.
So let them know. Represent.
California.
All right.
The
big orange. I don't know what's for the Golden State. Yeah.
Yes,
So we got to be a lot more thuggish than that, right? My address is online. Yeah, my name is Usher Meza. That's my Hebrew name. I'm George Meza. You guys can look me up. If you guys have beef, come and find me.
What's your gangster name?
That's how we do it.
What's your gangster name?
My gangster name. Well, that side doesn't exist to that extent, but the violent side is still there. But now I'm violent like King David is. But nice. Yeah, I mean, I think Jews have to be more in your face, especially religious Jews. I don't want people misrepresenting Judaism and in some way making us look silly. But a good, healthy sense of righteous fervor and defending the innocent, even if it means, confronting these protesters. Let's do it.
Yeah, man, screw those protesters, man.
That's right.
No, I'm not Jewish. I'm going to convert to Judaism. Soon.
Yeah. By the way, people have the right to protest. No one's taking that away from them. But these are the same people
who were protesting now.
Right. Well, they're the same people pushing, who were pushing the George Floyd BLM nonsense like a few years ago. It's the same group. And as a matter of fact, most people don't know that a lot of these Jewish guys who are not being allowed to the campus, all these were essentially leftists. This guy, I can't remember what his last name is, the professor in Columbia University, the assistant business professor, Shai something. There's videos of him, promoting like BLM and George Floyd riots and all this stuff. So it seems that it was the Jewish students in these communities that created this spirit of protest or this style of protesting, and only are protesting now because it's against them. Throughout Jewish history, we have always created our own Frankensteins, whether it's, making communism a thing and then it biting us in the butt, right? To every other weird ism from feminism, and on. It always hurts us at the end. But I think this is why I have a problem with left-wing Jewish people who in some way use the Bible to promote secular ideas because they butcher it. And this is why I constantly have to educate Muslims on this platform, because they're surprised to hear that you could convert to Judaism. Why? Because these secular Jews never mention it. Because for them, it's not about religion. For them, it's about blood. I have nothing in common when it comes to Israel and Torah with secular Jews. Nothing. We view Israel differently. We view Torah differently. We view the tribe differently. Different. And the bulk of the people who have issues with me on TikTok and on YouTube and who attack me and we even go as far as to call me fake everything, right, are not religious Jews. They're secular Jews. Because for them, Jewishness is blood. I I, I was on a live on Friday, like on a TikTok live, and then this like secular Jewish lady straight out told me that the reason I think the way I do is because I wasn't born Jewish. Even though she was irreligious, she didn't grow up religious, but her mother was Jewish. So it shows what's at the core of their argument, that they think that they're Ubermenschen, that they're superhuman, apart from how they think and how that thinking affects their behavior. For sure, if you're Jewish, i.e., you have Torah values, you should feel better, right, superior to someone who doesn't. I mean, assuming that you implore those values, you put those values into practice, right? But just because you exist, you think you're special, or just because you exist, you think you deserve a piece of land? Guys, the land of Israel does not belong to the Jewish people. The land of Israel belongs to whoever keeps the Torah. Now, you have a state of Israel there, full, I don't know about full, with a lot of holy religious Jews within. For the sake of those people, I want God to preserve that country. But I can't say that its existence is not antithetical to the Torah, right? Which is why, I don't view Israel as a Jewish state. I view it as a country that I have more in common with than I do with their enemies. And I always make the comparison between India and Pakistan. I'm not a Hindu, but I support India over Pakistan, just because they're a lot more tolerant and kind than the Islamic nation of Pakistan. And this is how you make the case for Israel. Never acknowledging any errors in early Zionist history. Like I was on this live, and they become revisionist. They're saying that the current state of Israel was actually founded as a religious country. This is like Reuven's claim, that the secularists took the idea from a religious movement, and they were essentially pushing from the beginning religious Zionism with some sort of secular tinge. Nonsense. It was an atheistical, right, socialist enclave in that region, completely irreligious. But just to win the argument, they'll lie. They'll lie. And I support the state of Israel, just like I support Judaism. Okay, but I'm not going to whitewash neither. There's problems with Judaism. There's problems with Israel, but that doesn't mean that Israel in some way shouldn't exist, or that land belongs to anyone but them at this certain time. From a secular perspective, clearly from a Torah perspective, it belongs to Torah keepers, which I would say the vast majority of people who live in Israel are not. But yeah. Oh, you know what? I never put this thing right there. So we are doing the counting of the sphere of the Omer. And this is a time where most Jews don't listen to music, or some of them will make an exception and listen to music that's a cappella. They don't take haircuts, at least the men don't, and which includes shaving. The question is, where does this come from? The truth is nowhere. There's no law to do this. It's a custom. It's a custom that said, what's the custom for for being in a state of availus during the Sphira? Is because of, I believe, the students of Rabbi Akiva who died, which, by the way, if you read it in context with different sources, it's because they were unalived by the Romans, not necessarily because they didn't show each other enough kavod, like they didn't honor themselves. It sounds quite ridiculous that God would unalive so many thousands of the 24,000 students because they didn't honor each other. But anyways, the tradition arose to be in a state of mourning. There's no halacha. However, the average Orthodox Jew wouldn't know that. And what makes it really bad is that they push away mitzvot, like getting married, because of this extra time of mourning. Life and the year itself is too short. To introduce more days of mourning only makes everything less bright, less colorful, less fun. Yes. So, and I would tell you that the average Jew doesn't even know why they're mourning. But anyways, that being said, it's not an actual halacha. It doesn't appear in the Talmud. It doesn't appear in Mishneh Torah. So if you ask me, if you want to listen to music or have haircuts during the Sefira, or for sure, get married, which is an actual mitzvah, go right ahead. And the same goes for the 3 weeks, by the way. I know I may be talking about stuff that most people don't know anything about, but there's a 3 weeks of mourning, right? That leads up to the 9 days. There's no halakha to mourn during the 3 weeks, so they've extended it. Heck, it's almost 2 months of mourning they've added to the Jewish calendar of mourning when there's no halakha to do so. I get it. The 9 days, yes, and it's really the week of the 9 days. It's not the whole 9 days that you're supposed to be in a state of mourning. But my gosh, people are just quick to fast for reasons they don't know why. For those people don't know why they're fasting. And I'll tell you, if you ever have a fast that's half the day, it's because it's not a real fast. Because they understand that it's not obligatory. But I'll tell you, if you go to an actual yeshiva, when I was in Asian Yield City, I used to cut people's hair in the bathrooms. When they told me don't cut people's hair during the Sefira, I'm like, okay. Heck, do I know? There's no law because of it. In a fast day, you're not going to find any food in yeshiva unless you're sick. You have to go to the chef and and ask him to give you something. Because you're going to pass out. All because they made it up anyway. Okay, Rabbi, where is the custom stated? So the first legal code that brings down, I think, mourning in the Sefira is Shulchan Aruch, but Shulchan Aruch specifically says it's a custom. It doesn't say it's a halacha. So Shulchan Aruch is not a code of Jewish law. Shulchan Aruch is a compilation of Jewish law, which means that it took the 3 most popular codifications of the time, which is the Rif, the Rosh, and the Rambam, and took the best out of the 3. But they instituted it as a custom. It's not a halacha. And everything I say on the show, trust but verify. And if someone has an issue with it, then tell their rabbi, and the rabbi could come up here and dialogue with me. Привет, Alon. Как дела? Amir, dímelo cantando. Oh, there you go. Привет. Добрый день.
¿Qué pasó?
Hola. What's going on?
Nada.
What's up, Amir? How's it going?
Hi, Rabbi Asher. How are you? How's everything?
Hi. How's it going? How's it going? So, Thursday.
Doing
tomorrow.
good. Doing good.
Doing good.
Yeah. How was that trip in India? It went wonderful, huh?
India, India is one of those places. So you ever seen with the Family Guy, when they go to India, they step out and it's all fires burning, and they're like, God is not here, and they just jump back on the plane. It's pretty rough, I'll tell you. It's one of these. I feel like I'm Indiana Jones. That's why I like India, but it's not for everybody. It's for sure not for everybody. But your money does go far there. Next year, we're planning to go to the Philippines. That's the plan. We did India 3 years in a row. And we just figure that we'll try another place. So we have 2 communities in India. And that's pretty much it. So
Are you
if
going
anyone
to
wants
visit
What?
Muslim communities or atheist communities or?
The Filipinos are most Christian.
Yeah, it's interesting because in India they do have supposedly atheist communities. In Tamil Nadu, I think it has like a big concentration of communists there. No, apart from the communities that we already have, at least in India, what we did there was travel to speak in universities and in seminaries with a presentation about basic Judaism, the state of Israel, and the Jewish people. Just giving them like a little introduction, just to in some way remove all the nonsense that has crept into their brains, because a lot of them believe the protocols of the elders of Zion, that Jews control the world and all this stuff. So then we go there and try to give them a different perspective. We take them a Sefer Torah so they can look at it, to fill in mezuzahs. Yeah. So, and they could ask us any questions. We're not trying to convert them. Yeah, because they wouldn't invite us again. For example, this last time we went to a Catholic seminary, so it was like a bunch of priests listening to us talk. But we also went to an Indian Orthodox church, and we did the same thing, just to let them know about the Jewish people. Because if in the Talmud there's a statement that says silence is agreement. So if people are just talking crap about you and you don't try to defend yourself, it's like you're agreeing with them. So this is why when people say that we don't proselytize, first of all, again, I say it constantly on the show, there's no source that says that we're not allowed to do it. It's actually like we're agreeing with our enemies. Because if they could spew as much nonsense about us corrupting the Torah and controlling the world, and we just stay quiet because we can't speak on a religious basis to them, or it's considered proselytizing, it's silly. I mean, we argue that we're the best in marketing, but we're not going to market Judaism. My first question is, where does it say not to do it? The answer is nowhere, people. So don't be sheep and challenge your leaders, because the crap's hitting the fan on their watch.
The majority of debates that I watch is between two contestants, usually Christianity and Islam and Christianity. It's very rare that you throw Judaism in the mix there.
Only with Meza. It's true.
True that.
But whatever debate, whether you hear a religious Jew argue against a religious Muslim or religious Christian, there's no other. Not that's recorded. If they do it secretly, then nobody knows about it. And I think people would like, or they should like, the fact that I'm not a Kabbalist and I present Judaism, because I present it in such a bare bones, plain way. Imagine if Rabbi Mizrahi, started debating Judaism with people. He'd be trying to get them to accept every midrash, every weird story in Kabbalah. It'd make us look terrible. I just give over bare bones Judaism, plain halacha, like in the Chumash. That's it, plain halacha and Chumash. Very simple. Kabbalists should be very happy that I don't represent Kabbalah. But anyways, yeah.
Rabbi, I have a question on what is this one rule that you mentioned that the Samaritans are different from Judaism? Most of the time you get interrupted every time you want to explain it, so I never got that opportunity. If you can please expand on that, please.
There may be more than one law, but I'm positive that their Torah scroll has an extra commandment that ours doesn't have, and that's that the place to worship is Mount Gerizim, which is I think modern day Shechem, like Har Bracha, up north of Yerushalayim. And well, our Torah scroll basically says that God will choose different places. And God did choose, at least according to our rendition, because their Bible is not our Bible, right? Our Torah is like theirs, again, with the exception of that one commandment. And also they include the book of Joshua, which is actually a different book of Joshua than ours, but they don't accept Tanakh or Nach. Like the prophets and the writings, they don't accept. Not to mention that the prophets and the writings talk about them as being converts brought over or placed there by the Assyrians. And they deny that. They claim to be Kohanim. And I went to their village. There's two main villages of Samaritans in Israel. There's one in in Shechem, in Mount Gerizim in the Palestinian territory, and in Holon. So Holon is 10 minutes from Tel Aviv in an Uber. And I met this guy Ben Sadaka, and
that wasn't the Karaites.
No, it's a Samaritan.
No, Karaites are different Samaritans. So.
Yeah, no, the Karaites, actually have a synagogue in the old city, and I filmed outside because it was closed when I went. But they also prostrate, and I also filmed the Samaritans. They prostrate also, but they wouldn't let me in the synagogue because I wasn't Samaritan. You believe that? And they wear fezzes, the Turkish hats, and these nice cool robes, and they don't convert people. They don't believe in conversion, so they wouldn't accept a convert anyways. But to the point that they started running out of women, So they imported, but they made an exception just for women. I mean, you can't blame them. But out of importing women from anywhere in the country, I mean, did they pick Zimbabwe? I mean, did they pick Peru? No, they picked Russians. You know, so
I wonder why.
I mean, listen, if you gotta pick, you gotta pick.
that's what I mean. It's like whoever did the picking, I mean, it had good taste. I mean, you could have picked, you know, whatever. That's what Putin said. You know, Putin said that they have the best women there. But yeah, so I mean, I met a few of these Russians in Cholon. So there you go. I mean, they may be inbred, you know, because they are. They have a very high disability rate. There's a lot of them because they've been inbreeding for so many years. You know, so they may be inbred, but they know how to pick their women. Okay.
But the tradition, is it passed by the mother line or father line or both of them?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I assume it's probably by the father.
So they convert a woman actually, you know, the children actually become Samaritan.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Because it's true. Like if it's by the father, they probably never even have to convert them.
Oh, so like the classic way.
I mean, I have to ask because this guy I interviewed, Rabbi Michael Baron, is like a sympathizer for the Samaritan community. Like maybe he would know. Yeah, because in that case, they could just marry anyone. I mean, it's kind of similar to, well, I guess Muslims could also, but I don't know. I get different opinions every time I ask a Muslim because according to traditional Islam, they're allowed to marry Trinitarians and Catholics. But now modern day Muslims, I guess they're a bit picky because now there are Christians who don't believe in the Trinity and they're saying no, that they have to be like non-Trinitarians. But like Catholics appear as people of the book in Islamic literature. So I don't know. I don't know. All right, what's next? What's next?
Was the New Testament written a few hundred years after Christ's death?
No,
It was during.
sooner. I mean, it was for sure written after his death. I believe the earliest fragments of the New Testament are the letters of Paul, and the earliest gospel was Mark, supposedly. But yeah, 40 years, probably like 40 years after Jesus may have been the earliest time.
And those were the eyewitness testimonies?
I don't know. I mean, what they claim to be. So what's doesn't matter. It's still faith. But I don't bash Christians on the show. I mean, they could believe things in faith that I don't believe in, just like we believe things in faith that they may not believe. Although I think people like Lawrence Kellerman, Rabbi Mizrahi, the Kuzari would say that the reason we believe in what we believe is because we have eyewitness testimony, like testimony of the Torah being given. All this stuff could have been made up, okay, and there would still be religious Christians and religious Jews today. Someone's asking, is Chabad modern Orthodox? No, I mean Chabad is called ultra Orthodox.
Well, have
Hey,
you
Rob-
seen Professor Kemmler from UCLA?
Oh, I don't know.
Kaplan or Kemmler, something like that. Tried to
No,
prove
no.
the mass revelation that happened on Mount Sinai and the three ways of approaching it.
Oh, you mean online?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Lawrence Kellerman.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
him.
I didn't. He may have been from UCLA. Yeah, I mean it's a famous video on YouTube. He used to teach in Neve. That's how. I mean, I know him like in Israel, but yes, he was a professor or like a campus rabbi or something. Yeah, so I don't like that argument. I think it's kind of silly. The idea that the reason, the Torah is true is because who would have like peddled this lie for so long? It's not true. I mean, people lie about, or people die and adopt belief system they have no proof for, and will even give up their lives for it. They don't need actual proof. And the idea that every Jew walking around, or the vast majority, are a direct descendant of those who stood on Mount Sinai, I don't believe that either. Now, again, I believe in faith that Mount Sinai occurred, but I don't think that there's any more proof for Judaism than there is for Islam. The reason we follow Judaism is not because we have 100% proof. You're not going to be able to prove religion or things that have to do essentially with God. There could be evidence. The reason you should follow a religion is because it works better than the alternative. So I think it's better to be Jewish than it is to be Christian than it is to be Muslim. Okay, but the idea that we don't have faith, we have facts, is only something that fanatics say. And I don't think anyone is going to convince an atheist to come over to his or her side with that type of argument. I can prove it. And you know what? The people who would come are people who would have come anyways, which are not the most impressive bunch. But the real questioners will be like, no one would believe this if they didn't already accept the Bible as authoritative, right? Because first you would have to believe that this even occurred to say it so matter-of-factly. We believe it in faith. What makes the Torah spectacular is the mitzvot within the Torah. At the time that they appeared, it was a solid sense of consistent ethics. I'm not saying perfect, right? I know I'm talking to people who are not Jewish who are listening, but for the most part, it's what the civilized world is built off of, and we should pay tribute to that. That's the extent that I'm encouraging anyone to be religious, at least in the beginning. That's it. Acknowledge that decency comes from the Torah better than any other copycat. And that's it. You know, trying to reinvent the wheel ethically every day, I think, makes the world worse. It makes it worse.
Why is it so easy to be just Christian then?
Why is it
so
easy?
much easier? It's so
Well, it's
much
not-
easier.
It seems like you mean
Is it designed that way?
so. It's not about
I don't
so.
know. It seems like Christianity being watered down with the pass of the time, but seems like 150, 200 years ago, it was pretty hardcore tie. We can see in the grandparents and stuff. People used to be very hardcore, but now today's like kind of a simulate kind of thing, washed down. But I don't know. That's the perception I got. Sometimes in Eastern Europe, you can find people like very, very strictly religious, Christian, Catholic religion, you know.
So it's not about becoming religious. It's about how long you remain religious, right? Because there's 100 people could do tshuva today, but if a year they're staunch atheists and they'll take more people with them than the days that they remained Jewish. So that being said, hold on. There's two questions. Because I have Ash's question here, and then I have what we were talking about. Oh, like if it's easier to be Christian. So the answer would be no. Well, it's easier to be Christian than it is to be Jewish because they lack all the rituals, at least that we have. I mean, they also have
And
rituals.
restrictions and laws and pretty much everything.
Well, ceremonial in terms of yes.
They don't gotta pray. They don't gotta watch diet. They don't gotta. There 1 or 2 Christmas, or Easter, holidays. That's about it.
So it's true. Regarding ceremonial laws, it's easier, but the ethical laws are the same. There isn't a Christian walking around saying that he or she is not bound to the ethical laws in the Torah. I mean, they're not going to say that they're allowed to dishonor their parents or, I don't know, to mistreat the widow, the orphan, the stranger. The problem is most Christians can't really articulate what they believe in. So they'll say that we're not under the law, but of course they're under at least the ethical parts of the law. What they're saying is that they're not under the ceremonial parts of the law. So I believe that they end up suffering for that. Like everybody knows that most Christian girls or Christian guys, when they're dating, they always go too far. Now, why does this happen? It's because they don't have standards of courtship. Meaning when they date, they don't know what's too much, right? They're like, well, I mean, I'm giving my sister a hug because we're brothers and sisters in Christ. I'm giving my sister a kiss. I'm going in this room with my sister. My sister. You're my sister. Was that from Joe Dirt? You're my sister. While in Judaism, because we have these standards, it keeps us progressing in a uniform manner, right? There's some standards of how to honor your parents, how much charity to give, how far you go with a date, right? The whole Shomer Nagia stuff, which is kind of blown out of your proportion. While in Christianity, it's kind of, it's like firing a rifle without any sights. What do they call that? Kentucky windage. So it affects how far they can get ethically if they don't have standards. But they do have standards, but they're just not well regulated. But yes, I mean, from that perspective, it's easier. Heck, you can drive one day a week and a few holidays a year. It gets pretty rough. It gets pretty rough. And, Pesach for like if you're Ashkenazi, for sure if you're Lubavitch, it's like Yom Kippur for 7 or 8 days.
And I think that attracts the population more.
I don't, everybody's converting to Islam, and Islam is not a walk in the park either. So it seems that people like structure.
Yeah, how many convert to Islam and how many live according to Islamic law and tradition? Very rare, and then who knows after a few years if they just call themselves Muslim, but they don't really obey their laws and rules and what they should be doing.
No, I get it.
No, most of the people just get into Islam, like they feel like more identified because it's kind of respected. I think that the fact that they intimidate and it's a religion that they act too prone to violence. If they don't get respected, I guess everybody kind of have that sense of protection to be part of that crowd. But in reality, when they start living among themselves, they start killing each other. Who's the more faithful or whatever, so-called caliphate. But yeah, it seems to be very attractive to a lot of people, even the traditions and all that.
But look, even your favorite guy, Mr. Tate, Andrew Tate, Mike Tyson. You think Andrew Tate prays 5 times a day? You think Andrew Tate goes to the mosque on Friday? Do you think he keeps? Nah, it's all. It's just as easy to take the Shahada and you're Muslim. So
that's true. But I mean, that being said, the vast majority of Jews don't keep anything either, and and I'm not saying they're atheists. Like most Israelis are not atheists. Okay, like most Israelis are traditional. They believe in God. Like on Shabbos, they'll go to their parents' house and they'll have a meal. They're not atheists, but they're just traditional. And they won't eat pork and they won't eat shrimp, but they'll eat everything else. So I think I could tolerate that form of religiosity. I get it. Not everyone has to be Chabad, but as long as you could articulate what the standards are, even though you're not able to keep those standards, I think that's healthy. It's when people basically start saying, well, the Bible was made up or laws don't exist. And that's when the problem occurs. But that being said, at this point in time, it's probably the most fun time in the world to be a Muslim. Okay. Heck, I mean, just as a single guy, I mean, you could roll into one of these like UCLA protests and say, "Baby, I'm Palestinian," and everything.
That's starting to backfire on them.
For sure. Like you have all these little Antifa girls, like sweating you because you're a Palestinian. You're there with the kafia, and they don't know you're Puerto Rican.
You see, for all the Muslims, especially now that they are into the big argument of, on this thing of what happened in Israel and the Sush attack on the Palestinians and Hamas. There's this guy, Musab Hassan Youssef. That guy is outstanding. He's so straightforward with this thing about Islam. He knows it inside out.
The Hamas founder's son.
Yes. I've not even seen one interview or one debate that somebody dares to even argue with him. He opens his eyes and he looks like a killer. This guy is a convert Christian. You see him. This guy's serious talk.
Especially during those Piers Morgan.
Nobody cares. Oh, you know what? The other day they got in the Daily Wire. They got like an interview, and he disclosed who killed Yasser Arafat. He said was Suha Shafat, his wife. He disconnect Yasser Arafat and took $9 billion out of his bank account. And nobody knows about it, but he knows about it. And he said the PLO knows about it, but he won't tell the people. And he's the first time we disclosed that in public.
Mm-hmm. Inside information on this guy. I work with this guy named Jeff Seidel. There's this organization in the Old City, who they do programming for unaffiliated kids in Israel. And he was trying to get this guy as a speaker, the son of Hamas, to speak at an event. You know how much that guy charges per event? $35,000 per speaking event.
That's fair. It's a fair thing.
This guy, the son of Hamas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 35,000. I mean, yeah, right. The son of capitalism. I mean, the way. He's
it's fine. You see, he has to pay his last event. I think it was Columbia. No, UCLA. It was in California, in one of these colleges out there. his last debate was with this guy from Al Jazeera that he goes also in CNN or whatever. He has to pay the guy from Al Jazeera $20,000 so he can debate him. And when you see the video, you can find it on YouTube and all that. His last debate, it was like, I mean, there was no podium. He was standing up all the time. He was like really trashy. The mediator was very, I don't know, it was no organization whatsoever. Even though he has to pay his opponent so he can come with him. So
everybody's getting rich but us. Everybody's getting rich, but everyone's getting rich but us. I'm just telling you, you know.
Yeah, it's gonna come with a time that money doesn't mean nothing. So I think that's how it's happening.
That's it.
But the guy's the real deal. He's from he destroys anybody that says otherwise.
I like him very much, man.
I like him because he's raw. He's raw, and
Yes.
he goes for the jugular, and he tells you how it is.
Exactly. And he doesn't preach as other people. He doesn't go into the Israeli way. He has his own vision of see things. And he says straight up, I mean, he was talking about religion, and he says that he has a lot of problem with Islam, but never with Sufism. Never with Sufism. And he started explaining about Sufism and all that. And he's a Christian. You know, he has criticism on Christianity too. You know, it's a good thing that he's not converting to Judaism, because I think he would undermine the whole thing. It's a good thing that he's a son of Hamas and he still be Muslim and he converted to Christianity, whatever. But I think he's outstanding. I mean, I really admire him very much. It's a good thing that he's in our side. He's one guy.
Yeah, smart guy. Very sharp, smart, and straight to the point. He's from there.
Rabbi Yasher, you should bring him into your show. Give him an interview. You see how many watch and thumbs up you're gonna have? You know?
He's a big celebrity now. Forget about it. He's a big celebrity.
I don't got the money.
He was on the what was that Dr. Phil show? He was on these big organizations, news organizations. He's up there, like you said, 35 stacks.
35.
Yeah, and before he wasn't nothing. You know, he's like before October 7th.
Listen, Obama, you know what was his net worth before he became president, and then find out what his net worth after his presidency. You know the numbers? You don't want to know.
Well, yeah.
Well, I would. You know, socialists that live with iPhones. You know, anyway. So
he was $400,000 net worth before presidency. After presidency, he's worth well over $200 million.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's following the Clinton path. So.
All right, so we have Fish. Welcome, Fish. Nady. Oh, he's muted.
Hi, Rabbi.
How's it going? What's a good word?
I think it was Sunday I saw you on here, and you said something that actually inspired me. You said, basically, if the religion is 100% BS, made up, it really doesn't matter because it teaches you how to live well. And I just want to let you know that's how I also feel about Christianity, how we should be treating each other. And it was nice to hear somebody be honest about it. And
but isn't that subjective?
So you know.
Well, it's interesting that Richard Dawkins actually just came out saying the exact same thing about Christianity. Look it up. Richard Dawkins and Christianity. And he's been bashing Christians. Like, he's an evolutionary biologist, I believe. And
I thought he was dead.
No, Richard Dawkins? No, you're thinking of Carl Sagan maybe, or Christopher Hitchens?
I'm thinking of Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking of Christopher Hitchens.
So he was Jewish, by the way. Like an atheist Jews, like most of these protesters in these campuses are actually Jewish. So he came out as a proponent for Christianity as an alternative to Islam or an atheistical lifestyle. Because so I'm going to find you the quote exactly. Hold on. Like on YouTube. Because what I say it regarding Judaism. Let's see, Richard Dawkins. Dennis Prager just spoke about it. Christianity. Watch. There are many Orthodox Jews, or like many atheist Jews, who put their kids in religious schools just for that. Substituting Christianity will be dreadful. Here you go. So he identifies as a cultural Christian. All right. Commercial. Hey, listen to this.
Hey, fellows, I'm on call tonight, so Laila, talk to everybody. Take care of Rabbi Asher. Stay in touch, please.
What? What'd you say? Tashlith? What did you say?
No. I'm saying that I'm calling the night, and I said let's stay in touch.
Oh, yeah. All right, Lila talk about it. Okay, hold on. All right, guys, this is Richard Dawkins, in some way promoting cultural Christianity. A staunch atheist. I mean, Richard Dawkins has debated many people, and he's speaking about the redeemable qualities of a Christian existence.
All right.
Okay, there we go. I mean, you guys could look it up on TikTok, on YouTube or on TikTok. So this is Richard Dawkins on Christians. He's endorsing being a cultural Christian, like basically finding redeemable ethical qualities in the belief system. That someone doesn't have to be fully convinced of a certain theology in order to peddle a certain theology for the sake of goodness. Because I'm sure what he's proposing is that what's the alternative? That's the question he's asking. What's the alternative? Is Islam an actual viable ethical alternative to Christianity? Or, I mean, from my perspective, Judaism? No, it is not. Right? It's an alternative, right? And I believe it's an alternative to atheism. But yeah, it's the best being the enemy of the better, and I think Christianity.
Wasn't it him one time saying that it causes war and there were a lot of people died in the name of religion?
Yeah. I mean, he's come around, and not just him. I mean, look at Russell Brand. I mean, Russell Brand was just baptized into Christianity. It's a great thing, by the way. A great thing, and I'm not a Christian. I mean, I don't know much about Jordan Peterson's past, but he, I mean, has also been promoting religion a lot. I think orthodoxy, Christian orthodoxy. So yeah, there's progress being made if you look in the right places.
If you look at what the Romans were doing at the time of Christianity 2,000 years ago, the way a Roman citizen could walk up to a man, woman, child that was a slave and have their way with them and not think twice about it, and everything was legal. And look at how man treated man 2,000 years ago versus how we treat each other today. It's much improved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is something that but the problem with people who teach religion online, and I guess I'm part of those people, is that you typically get an amateur's perspective of religion, and typically a fanatical one, because most people who are new to religion are quite fanatical. And this goes for the Rabbi Mizrahis and the Yaron Rubens, that they're new and they just sound wacky. And the only people that they empower are other wacky people. However, if you listen to more sophisticated speakers like the late Jonathan Sachs, or people who could put their words together better, someone like Dennis Prager, then you could get a more adult version of religion. And the same thing goes for Christianity. For some reason, the ability of everyone having a voice on social media, I think it's a good thing, but it doesn't always help. It doesn't help everyone, especially there's many people. This is why I made a video to keep your women off of TikTok. Because the last thing you want is for your wife coming home and telling you, baby, assalamu alaikum, and I mean, someone is stepping up to be the leader, like her religious leader, while you're at work. But that being said, yeah, it's a problem where everyone could claim the Bible for themselves, like these Black Hebrews. Black Hebrew Israelites quote the Bible back and forth, but there isn't going to be a bigger twisting of the text than you get by like a Black Hebrew rendition of the scriptures.
I have to drop. I just want to say one thing. I believe Hashem. I believe that you and I worship the same God, God the Father, Hashem. And the way I look at it is Jesus was the greatest thing that ever happened to Judaism or to Hashem, because now you have 2 whatever billion people who know the ways of Hashem, who do honor the Old Testament, and versus what religions there were 2,000 years ago. And even the people that aren't radical Muslims, they're 1.4 whatever billion. It has led so many people, and there could be the controversy whether we all worship the same God the Father, Creator, Hashem, Allah, whatever. But I think Jesus was definitely a net positive for Hashem.
I'd have to agree with that. And like Maimonides also makes a similar statement that he finds redeemable qualities not just in Christianity but in Islam as well. If it wasn't for Christianity, they picked up the slack on something that was essentially the job of Israel, which was to spread biblical values to the world. Not that everybody had to become Jewish, but introduce the idea of the God of Israel, and people inquired further. They would want to obey and follow the God of Israel, which would mean entering the covenant, i.e. converting to Judaism. But if it wasn't for Christianity, for sure there would be no state of Israel. I don't...
Well, he said in the name of, I'll just do a simple Google here. We have about 195 deaths in the name of religion. How do you justify that? In terms of a net positive.
What do you mean?
When you say a net positive that Jesus brought in, or religion in general brought in.
Yeah.
Besides the atheism that these radical leaders have killed, in the name of religion, that's a lot of people dying.
What, 195 million? Is that what you're...
Correct.
So there's, in the last 150 years, under atheistical pursuits, I think the number's around 180 million. Like Mao Zedong, like the leader of China, of communist China is attributed to from 67 to 70 million. Stalin is another 40 million. Pol Pot is 2 million. Cuba, untold numbers. We don't know because it's still, like hidden. North Korea, heck, with the French Revolution, wasn't a religious but an atheistical pursuit. I mean, what happened during World War II with Germany wasn't a religious pursuit either. In terms of that, there was a number given for the actual numbers of the people who died in the Inquisition, and I think in around 700 years, it was roughly around 2,000 people. It was so minimal. They twist these numbers around to make religious people look primitive. I'm not saying, look, that religious people fight other religious people. I mean, Christians fight other Christians. The question is, would it be worse in a society where people didn't walk around feeling that their neighbors weren't created in the image of God or in some way had some intrinsic value in them? I would still put my money with the religious people. I'm not saying religion is perfect. The question is, what's the alternative? So every society that has tried to reinvent the wheel ethically typically has left a trail of blood and carnage. Okay, and I'm on man's side. I want man to be able to figure out on their own, but they just keep on screwing up. So, for example, in America, now with the unaliving of kids under abortion, right, they in some way make it seem all normal and call it a right to privacy or a woman's right to choose to unalive children. From a biblical perspective, that's exactly what's happening, right? And these numbers aren't even counted as lives being lost, all under atheistical pursuits, because most religious people don't support abortion. And for sure they don't support it as a form of birth control. So I'm not saying religion's perfect. I'm saying that it's a better alternative to atheism. All right. I mean, look, religious people could protest, right? At least from a Christian perspective, because Muslims, they pander to the left, which is kind of weird. It seems like they just unite because they both hate the West. But when Christians and Jews protest, they don't take over buildings and spray paint and this and that. I mean, that's quite rare. Right? I mean, even when they entered the Capitol, they didn't destroy anything in the Capitol. I mean, apart from the doors to get in, but they were taking pictures and they were waving flags. While people who are irreligious have no issue burning a flag or replacing it with a Palestinian flag or completely, tormenting their fellow classmates. We're not the same. I'm not saying being religious is perfect, but it's a better alternative to secularism, to atheism. Heck, I mean, atheists, if they have anything in common, is that they're all quite angry, right? They're bitter people. I think being religious makes you happier. It gives you a lot more purpose in life, makes you more charitable, right? It allows you to live a richer, fuller life. And that even goes for being Muslim too, by the way.
So a human being needs guidance.
Yeah. And when atheists try to guide each other, it's basically your opinion over everybody else's. So everyone tries to do what they think is right. And at the end of the day, might makes right, from that perspective. So whoever's more popular will end up tormenting, the majority of the population, just like we have to reword what we say on this TikTok, and then we get banned. It's because a handful of angry little atheists are dictating what the majority of us could do or say, right? So for sure, I would rather be under the control of religious Christians than atheists. But
and they get out of control sometimes.
Yeah.
They get out of control. For example, with the fanatics, or like you said, Kabbalah. Or I have a friend, to be honest with you, before he steps into my office, he has to step in with his right foot, and I start cracking up.
That's
and he looks at me like there's something wrong with me.
It says that. It says that. I know it says it in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I'm curious what he got it from, but for sure it's Kabbalistic. Whether you always have to enter every room with the right foot, and you always have to tie your right shoe first. Kabbalah. And that's when you think to yourself, wow, Judaism has so many rules. The truth is, Judaism doesn't have so many rules. It's all these Kabbalistic ideas that misappropriate Judaism just to I don't know, legitimize themselves, all these weird practices. Anyways, what we do on the show is that we break everything down to its core. I'm not going to tell you a practice in Judaism without first telling you it's from the Talmud, it's a custom, it's binding, this and that. Unlike these other TikTok shows that I hear, that they'll say, weird. whatever. I don't even want to bash these guys there, but they're certainly that's Jewish atheists who are pushing liberalism. Okay. All right, so we're going till 9 o'clock today. 9 o'clock, we are stopping. All right, anyone in the chat? Any hater? Okay. Sheikh. What's a good word, Sheikh?
What about Africa? You ever thought of going to Africa?
I've been there. I mean, I've been to Cape Town. I've been to
Real Africa.
Johannesburg.
Real Africa.
Oh, South Africa's not real Africa. Yeah. Anyways. Welcome, Moishi.
So, no, I didn't have battery. That's why I canceled. But,
No problem.
All right. What's up? What's new?
So what's your contribution to what we were saying?
I don't know. You know my question about Christianity. So
what's your opinion on Christianity?
I mean, I think it's about the Torah.
Yeah. So that's fine.
If you only have is, I agree with the other guy that you had, the audio that you put. If you only have Islam and Christianity, for sure, Christianity is a better option than beating your heart with your wife and drinking camel pee.
So I could think that you're an idolater and still be a decent person, by the way. Like Mormons, for example. Mormons for sure are idolaters. They don't even believe in a Trinity, but they believe in 3 different gods, and you could become a god. But they're the sweetest, most ethical people I've ever met. I remember when I lived in Virginia, the Mormons would park their bikes in my house, because I was so welcoming, and I'd bring them in and give them food and everything. They're the sweetest people. I never been to Utah. Well, I mean, I'd driven by. I had a friend who lived there and told me that
Mormons are still like some sort of Christianity.
No, right, correct. Yeah, but it shows that you can be
another
decent.
Example, a different practice that is not like related to Christianism.
Oh, right. No, but I'm saying that you can be a decent person and be an idolater. So you just can't be a holy person and be an idolater.
Like a pagan. Let's say pagans. Okay, pagans are idolaters. They have this Odin and whatever names, right. Thor and all those guys. Okay, so you think that those guys can still be pagans and good people? In order to be a good person, you need values.
Right.
And I think the Torah values are the best.
Correct.
So that's why Christianity against Islam, it will be better because of the values.
Right. So I don't know.
I don't know the value of pagans.
I don't know how the followers of Odin live. I mean, I watched the show Vikings, and they seem pretty nice, but for some reason, I don't think, that they're portraying Viking values.
These are the worst example.
It's
like the guys were like raping everybody and unaliving everybody.
It's like Miss Cleo. I don't think Miss Cleo is Jamaican. But anyways, yeah. In terms of Indians, also, by the way, Indians seem like very docile and everything, but supposedly, before the British entered India, they weren't very nice people. The British instilled Victorian values, right? They were very promiscuous. I mean, look at Kama Sutra and all this stuff. They weren't like Abu from The Simpsons or whatever we're used to, like a likable Hindu, right? Like they were actually like unaliving, when they would unalive the widows, right? They had a practice called sati, where they would burn widows alive, and so the British came there and instilled Victorian biblical values.
Laws.
What?
They don't have any dietary laws. I mean, their food is
no, they
disgusting.
do have dietary. What do you mean, Indians?
The vegetarian.
Yeah, I mean they don't typically.
I mean the way they cook. I mean, they don't have.
Oh, well, they don't
have.
Oh, right.
Sanitary laws. You know what I mean?
So it depends. If you're a priest, like if you're a Brahmin, like you don't eat onions and you don't eat garlic. It's like a rule with them. But I don't know. There's so many different streams of Hinduism. I mean, the food's pretty good, but if you eat it for a week straight, you don't want to look at it again. It's like in your stomach. Everybody there messes with their stomach.
Wait, do they have the parameters or whatever is I don't know what is the name of
I
their-
mean, the sanitary is just their way of life. It's their surrounding, their community, their what it's what they were gift. That's what meaning they're working with what they got.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Moshe. What do you say?
Wait, do they have any type of conversions or something like that?
I don't know. I mean, I heard some people told me yes, and some people told me no. So I don't. I mean, look at the Hare Krishnas. The Hare Krishnas are typically white guys in airports with little ponytails, right? So, and they're free to go to India. I mean, the Beatles went to India. I mean, I guess if you got money, they could treat you like a Hindu. But I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, that's weird. Although Hare Krishnas is like the most, I think, is the top kind of religion that Jews choose when they go astray, right?
No, Buddhism.
Because I know a lot Buddhism or Hare Krishna, whatever. I don't know if it's the same.
Hare Krishna. I don't know. Are we allowed to say that? Probably not. But
Probably
fine.
not.
No, so Jews who are Buddhists, they call them Jubus. They don't know. I mean, Jews are. It's like in these Palestinian protests and UCLA and all this stuff. The majority of these kids are Jewish, right? Most Jews do not represent their values quite well. This is why if a Jewish person doesn't believe in God, I'm not saying they have to be Orthodox. If they don't believe in God, I don't like them representing Judaism, and I don't like them representing Israel. Because what happens is that they argue from a left-wing perspective. A lot of these Jewish people who are supporting Israel now were supporting George Floyd and BLM and all this nonsense, and they've created this environment in the collegiate system that now they're complaining about because it's a Frankenstein they created. So I dislike these.
All right. The only problem that I have with that claim that you make of like non-religious Jews supporting the state of Israel is that, with Pesach, like 80% of the people were left behind, right? But it is not clear in the Torah. So why is not clear in the Torah? Because, it's complicated to say that publicly. Even the Torah itself, Hashem himself, avoided to put that in the Torah. Because there is no, the Torah doesn't hide any type of shame. If Moshe does something wrong, Hashem puts it in the Torah. If Aaron did something wrong, his children, whatever, everything is in the Torah. Except for this. The 80% of the Jews in Egypt were left behind.
Yeah, in Babylon
and they
also,
were mixed again. What's that?
In Babylon as well.
Right. And Ezra had to almost get a stick and start kicking all the Kohanim to come back because nobody wanted to come back. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any Kohen nowadays.
But this is why, Temanim don't have any Kohanim. You heard about this?
What's that?
This is why Temanim.
Yeah, Yemenites. Yeah, Yemenites don't have Kohanim. Yes.
Yeah, because of this. And they're saying that, in Hebrew, if they call you Temani, it's a way of calling you cheap. Because they're saying that Ezra HaSofer, he cursed with the Yemenites in Yemen, for not coming back to Israel. He cursed, for them to be poor. And it's weird. Most Yemenites outside of Ethiopians in Israel, are quite poor. And who knows?
All right. I didn't know that about the Yemenites don't have any Kohanim until quite recent.
I know one who's a Kohen, but it's a tradition. I don't know if it's true, but and they suffered a lot. They had their baby stolen by the early Zionists. You heard about this story?
What's that?
But the Temanim had their baby stolen?
Baby stolen? Well,
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear that.
Well, so the early Zionists would tell Yemenite women that their children died at birth, and they would take their kids and sell them on the black market or raise them in secular kibbutzim. It sounds like a Palestinian claim, but the state of Israel acknowledged it in the Knesset. And they were doing reparations. There was kids who came out and spoke about it, and there were DNA tests. The early Zionists weren't Boy Scouts. Guys, trust but verify. Don't take my word.
And what was the
Actually, let me ask you a question.
the way, Arthur, there's another claim that you were making the other day with Ruben.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so confusing the way you were making that claim. I didn't understand what the hell you were saying. I mean, it sounded very bad, but I didn't want to jump and say something because I didn't understand shit of what you were saying.
Sure.
You were saying that the rabbis before the Holocaust were against the atheists making a state.
Right.
Which is true. I mean, it's
the Hafetz Chaim. The Hafetz Chaim was a staunch. Well, like all the big Rebbeim, with the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, not the last one, but his father-in-law was a staunch anti-Zionist. Who?
Wait. Not every rabbi in Europe, but the majority, yes, for sure. I
would say 99% of them. 99%.
I don't know if 99% because the followers of the Vilna Gaon, all of them were okay with whatever.
No. Okay. But so the followers of the Vilna Gaon lived in the state of Israel, but they lived in the land of Israel. Jews always lived in the land of Israel. The Rambam, the Ramban, they all lived in the land of Israel. However, Zionism, which is the idea that you can incorporate secularism alongside with any form of religiosity to establish a state, that is what they were against, right? This is why you can have the Torah Karta living in Meir Sharm and Geula, because they were there before the state was formed, and they took a vote that there shouldn't be a state. They love the land, but they don't agree or identify with the secular state.
Right, but okay, the only problem that I have with that is the case of the Maccabean. I mean, the Maccabean they didn't kill everybody that unalive and everybody that were not religious. I mean, they only remove whatever was there. And I mean, if you wanted to be following the Greeks, do whatever you want, but the state's gonna follow the Torah, even though they didn't follow the Torah after that. It was this crazy thing, mix Arabs with Romans and stuff.
What? Wait, hold on. All right. So the story of the Maccabees, that when the
time of the Maccabees were good. Okay, that time was good after Hanukkah, whatever.
Uh-huh.
How they turned after that period, how everything happened. They don't follow the Torah, and that was their idea at the beginning. I mean, it wasn't. Okay, this is what I want to say. It was so crazy the way the Greeks profaned the Beit HaMikdash that they just wanted to make everything again, come back to their status quo. But they were not that religious as the history let us know.
Hold on.
It's trying to tell us.
All right, so you're talking. But there's a distinction between the Hasmoneans and Judah Maccabee and his father and the ones who actually led the revolt.
Right, that's the same.
So, I mean, the Hasmoneans essentially invited Rome in because there was a dispute on who would be king, and they brought in Rome in order for them to decide, and they decided with the weaker brother, and then they wielded power from within, and then they became our occupiers. But of course they were.
My problem with that. Imagine Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai saying Israel cannot exist, the Sanhedrin cannot exist, anything cannot exist here until everybody leaves. There is some sort of negotiation that you have to admit. It's not surrendering the Torah or Judaism.
Yeah.
But you cannot be saying the state cannot be created or whatever, or being that person or organization that is going to be preventing the state to be created. I mean, what I'm trying to say is all the rabbis in Europe that were against the creation of the state by the Zionists, the atheist Zionists, were doing it just because out of ignorance.
What? Wait.
The whole spectrum of the thing.
Okay.
You have to be able to talk. And the problem that they had is that they were so closed, and their communities were so close to anything that were not totally religious as they were, that they didn't want to know anything. Moses Mendelssohn tried to tell them.
Yeah, but Moses Mendelssohn
tried to.
I mean, wasn't a rabbi, but he was a rabbi, but he wasn't. I mean, he was a founder, I guess, of modern Orthodoxy. But he's very disliked in the Orthodox world, and I like his teachings, by the way. Now, surprisingly, he has no relatives that are Jewish.
What he was trying to tell all the crazy guys is dude, we need to be normal.
Oh yeah, but I don't think
with all those guys.
Yeah, but he
is that
didn't
they
endorse.
want
I don't think he endorsed what became Zionism. I mean, Zionism essentially came from the Haskalah. That's what gave birth to the existence of a secular Jew, with the idea that you could incorporate the secular world into religiosity, but at the price of religion and Torah being compromised. That is essentially what gave birth to secular Zionists.
How the Torah is going to be compromised? That's what I don't understand from you. The Torah cannot be compromised. Judaism cannot be compromised.
Okay,
It wasn't
so currently,
compromised during Egypt. What are you talking about?
What do you mean?
I don't agree with you on that.
But secular Jews didn't compromise in the Torah? I mean,
No,
the idea of how
Torah
they identify
was
what a
not
Jew is?
compromised.
I'll tell
Torah
you.
was not compromised in
Okay.
Egypt.
No, forget about Egypt. In terms of the founding of the state.
No.
So the state of
What
Israel.
I'm trying to give you the proof that the Torah cannot be compromised.
No, I get it.
At all.
Okay. It's compromised when a group of people claim to be Jewish and speak in behalf of the Jewish world, use the Bible as a proof that this land belongs to them, but not believe in it. Okay. Which means that the values that they're promoting on that piece of land aren't necessarily biblical values. It's a secular country, right? That misappropriates Torah values to claim its existence when they don't even believe in the Torah. This is what Zionism started off as. Now it's been redefined as something else. The vast majority.
Like all the children of David, like after Shlomo Melech, of course, including Hizkiyahu, but all the children of David Melech were like, what? They didn't care about Torah or anything, and Torah is still here. I don't understand that claim.
Who said they didn't care about
Torah will
Torah?
be compromised
wait.
because the state is secular.
Okay, I don't think we could compare like the children of David Melech to like the early founders of the state.
Okay, let's compare to the Hasmonean.
No, but you can't.
Time.
Well, the reason
What?
Maccabi is an acronym. You know,
After that, let's.
Yeah, they weren't irreligious
when
either.
The Romans were put in the Kohen Gadol.
Yeah, but they weren't irreligious. See, the state
That
of
was
Israel.
not Judaism itself. That was just a show.
No, it was. Okay, hold on. You can't compare true secularism back then, right, with what we saw with the establishment of the state of Israel. The state of Israel was essentially founded as a socialist enclave, irreligious, by people who glorified Marx, who I read this book about Golda Meir, how she would go to Russia and spit on religious people. The founders of the state of Israel were anti-religious. The Labor Party, when they were in charge, wouldn't give the red card you needed to work in the land of Israel unless you worked on Shabbos. As people were coming out of the plains from Yemen, they would cut their beards and their peyot off. I don't know if it was Yemen, but it was before that.
No, those were the Ashkenazim.
Fine. So this notion that you're comparing the Maccabees with the founders of the state of Israel.
No, I'm not comparing it. I'm trying to understand your claim, saying that the Torah can be compromised. The Torah cannot be compromised.
I'm not saying it
That's
could
not
be compromised. Okay, I'm saying that it has been compromised.
Judaism. What's that? Now, on the other live, you said Judaism can be compromised by non-religious Jews. I don't believe that. Because the Torah is I don't know. The Torah is protected by itself.
Now, what do you mean by compromise? Because you sound a little bit like a Muslim. How Muslims saying like the Quran is perfect and it can never be tarnished. People could misrepresent the Torah.
Compromise, like people are going to start like believing that the Torah is actually a cultural thing and not like a religious thing.
Well, that's the reform
And then
movement.
people are going to start like thinking that, oh yeah, we have holidays. But
That's
it's
the
like,
vast majority of Jews. The vast majority of Jews who walks around saying that they believe.
But that's not going to change the mind of the religious Jews.
Ah,
That's
the
what you're
religion.
trying to
Okay,
say
wait.
when you say
Okay.
compromising the Torah.
So you're
Judaism
saying
is going to keep existing.
So you're saying that it can never be compromised in the mind of religious Jews, but the world could get an incorrect rendition of what the Torah actually teaches. But to the religious Jew, we always have the pure Torah, right? But we're 10% of the Jewish world. Orthodox Jews are probably less than 10% of Jewry worldwide. If the vast majority of Jews, okay, the reason what occurred during World War II occurred was because the vast majority of Jews were irreligious. Okay, and I'm not. Wait, hold on.
That's a big claim.
Well, okay, it's not a religious claim, by the way. You know, like although I mean, Rabbi Yochanan Wasserman.
Unless you're quoting here Mein Kampf.
No. Wait, hold on. All right. You know, so the Talmud Muvchak of the Hafethaim, Rav Hanan Wasserman, wrote this in his book. It's called Epica, like Yemot HaMashiach, or something like his book he wrote. He says that the reason World War II occurred is because God used the acronym Yahtzee.
Yeah, I got the book. I read that.
Right,
But
right.
then he died trying to save his
Correct,
students.
correct.
It was so stupid.
So this is a common approach. Now, what I meant was that because we were the biggest peddlers of what was called democratic socialism of the time, i.e., communism, we paid for that. We, meaning religious people, paid for their sins from that perspective. And that's what the H-Man wrote in his book. Okay? It wasn't because we were keeping Shabbos, and it wasn't because we put boxes on our heads, to fill it. I mean, it's because we weren't doing what we were supposed to be doing, and we misrepresented Judaism. Nowadays in America, if you say Jewish, the first thing they have in mind is left-wing values.
Yeah, but that's not true. What he says is not true.
What do you mean?
You're saying that what Hitler said was true, was real, and as a very
Yes, it
reliable
was true.
source.
It was true. I mean, even Churchill.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
In America today, let's say,
have
it's
to
not such a
disagree on
far-fetched
that. I
idea.
don't think what Hitler wrote on Mein Kampf was true.
We assimilated?
The what? I'm sorry?
Did we assimilate? Is that one of the reasons?
No, I mean, Jews have been secular for a very long time, and religious Jews were religious, but religious Jews weren't politically involved. Typically, the average Orthodox Jew who suffered during World War II didn't get involved in politics. However, because of the Jews who did get involved in politics, religious Jews suffered for it. For example, nowadays, the average religious Jew can't walk down the streets of France, let's say, with a kippah on because of Zionism, when he doesn't necessarily support Zionism, but because of this secular movement, right, that misrepresents Torah. What?
That's a very simplistic way to put it. It's not only that. It's also because people hate the religion as well.
No. Okay. So I would say that we have more in common with Muslims than Christians do. Right? Muslims feel more at home in a synagogue than they do in a church. This idea that if it wasn't for Zionism, we would still have a problem with Muslims, assuming that we didn't have a state of Israel, is silly. If Israel was Christian, it would be treated worse than Israel being Jewish by the Muslims. So it's not that people dislike. It's like, I'm not convinced of that idea, right? I mean, we've been tolerated amongst Muslims for a very long time.
What is the percentage in Israel of religious Jews compared to religious Christians? Christians are majority.
No, I'm saying if Israel was a Christian country, like if it was called, I don't know, like the gospel, right? Because it's in lands that used to belong to the
Muslims are going now to Europe, they're invading Europe. I don't know what they're doing. So why the Vatican is not scared of them?
Why is
they should be scared because based on your claim, Christians should be scared of every Muslim.
No, because there's a difference between establishing a state in traditionally Muslim lands in their minds, right? It's part of their caliphate, than in a place where there was never a caliphate, i.e. Europe. Now, yes, I mean, they want Islam to spread all over the world, but this is why on that piece of land, they can't remain docile for too long, right? I mean, they have to lie, they have to fight, right? And
well, do you really think they're in Europe to spread Islam, or they're in Europe because they want to get the hell out of the shithole that they're coming from?
Both. Both. People, I support the state of Israel, by the way, but we have to allow a little dissent. This idea that we could never do anything wrong, and if we ever mention something that people don't like, then we're automatically going to say we're not Jewish and insult everyone's mother. That we can't do that. All right. I mean, you could support Israel, but at the same time say the truth about how it was formed and the truth about how it's not a religious country, and it's. I'll tell you, I would stop supporting the state of Israel tomorrow if they would pass this law they've been trying to pass for many years that converts would not be able to make Aliyah, and it was pushed by Shas, by the way. I mean, the Sephardi Haredi party. Now, it hasn't taken place. So I support Israel because it's been able to balance a healthy religious component within it. But the day they say that in order to live in Israel, you have to be an ethnic Jew via blood, then it would officially solidify themselves as a racist country. Okay, and I would cease supporting it because from that perspective, it's already tarnishing and misrepresenting the Torah as a whole. They do it enough on this platform. Every time a Muslim comes up, they're surprised to hear that you can convert to Judaism. And these guys argue Israel-Palestine all day long. The reason why is because Jews stay quiet. You know, whenever a Muslim asks, oh, well, is it true that if your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish? Yeah. And they'll stay quiet without saying, no, it's true. Yeah, your mother's Jewish, but you could convert as well. Why don't they say that? Right? So they lie by omission. The state of Israel, the day it becomes fully a blood-based thing, I would become an anti-Zionist. And I would encourage everyone else too, because now you're poisoning the ethical well for everybody, right? The well's for everyone to drink, and now they're going to misappropriate it and say it's about race or blood or having a Yiddish neshama, a pintel yid, you know, chelek elokam iman mamish, all of the above. So this is something that people don't talk about.
Are they getting stronger in the Knesset?
No, I mean the religious people in the Knesset are a bunch of sellouts. You
Right,
know,
but are they getting stronger?
Who's they?
Are they the population growing?
The population of religious people?
Yeah, that means they're going to have more representatives in the Knesset.
The problem, okay, the population that's growing are the Haredi Jews, and Haredi Jews typically don't care to vote, don't care about politics. They have a lot of kids, and they'll vote for groups like Degel HaTorah, Shas, that basically just like sell out to bigger groups just so you could get more welfare, you know, for people with a lot of kids, right? I mean, even heck.
Well, that's the only threat I see.
No, the Rav Ovadia Yosef was for like giving back Gush Katif and all these things. I mean, most people don't know that the Haredi parties, heck, I mean, Agudas Israel was against the state of Israel. I mean, that it was founded, you know, to be anti-Zionist. Most people don't. Now, we're dealing with two things.
He was against giving back the Sinai.
Oh, was he? Okay, well, I mean, that was
I don't know
smart
about
for me.
Gush Katif. I seriously don't know, but for sure about the Sinai, he said it was a big mistake, and that's why Sharon was like he was.
Yeah, it was Menachem Begin who gave back the Sinai. But, you know, the Sinai actually had oil, you know, and Israel would have had oil. So, I mean, these people who say that, you know, they're doing it just for money.
Are you on oil or peace?
I'll take both. Yeah, I'll take
Yeah, you had a cake and eat it too, huh?
peace smothered in oil. But why not? Anyways, it's 9 o'clock, 9:10. Guys, thank you for stopping by. Friend everyone here in the panel. And
Talk to you.
yeah, and if I don't talk to you guys, have a good Shabbos.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Musa.